What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? Welcome back once again to a brand new video. It's I, your Morphinominal host, Adam Perez. We're here once again with another Zenkaiju reviews. We're going to get into episode number 27 for you guys today. So welcome to Toku Tuesday here at A-Plus Morphinominal, ladies and gentlemen. Getting into an episode, one that I certainly didn't mind, had my issues with, but overall it was rather enjoyable to certainly say the least. The idea here that we're continuing on from the previous story about the idea of Kaito's mom being awakened from her stasis. So I'm assuming thanks to the help of Stacy, she manages to wind up escape, and nobody knows, unfortunately, where she's at, right? I believe Kaito in last week's episode thinks that maybe she certainly returned to Earth. So we had a huge search party certainly going along at the end of last week. And so when we dive into this week's episode, we clearly get to see that everybody's searching has unfortunately failed, really putting Kaito sort of in a really bad position, really bad feelings emotionally and things like that. But it's not until the Zenkaigers come up with a fantastic idea that maybe she didn't come to this particular Earth, right? Maybe she went to another dimension, another world, if you will, and talk about perfect timing as we wind up having Zox walk through the front door and hear Mr. Parallel World Pirates himself really talk about perfect timing. Kaito immediately asks for his help, and that's exactly where we find ourselves in here on this in this particular episode. The idea of traveling to other worlds in search of Kaito's mom. And that's one of the concepts about this week's episode that I really had a fun time checking out. It's one of those things where, you know, all season long, we've kind of seen what these topias, if you will, these worlds, what they would do to our Earth whenever we wind up having a new Toji Tendo, you know, of the week, if you will, right? We've seen how it's changed not only the people of Earth, but just some of the settings, some of the landscapes, right? We've seen Mushroomtopia on here on Earth, the idea of mushrooms popping up from people's heads. It's cool to kind of see those topias and the themes utilized here on Earth. It's completely different, though, when you get the opportunity to actually visit these worlds and actually see how they're kind of run, like what the people are like when you get there, what's the settings and things like. So we did have a couple of great worlds we revisited. Mochi World, which I was surprised that we went and visited that. Literally everybody's eating mochi. They got mochi hats on. If you're not wearing a mochi, you're considered a pervert, according to Jurin. Poor guy wind up getting blasted this week. Retro World we went back to. Mushroomtopia we were there also, and then of course Retro World and Icetopia also that we got the opportunity to go ahead and check out. And it was just really fun for me to get the opportunity to visit those worlds, see how people lived, right? See how some of those settings when they did come here to Earth, how well did they sort of incorporate that into, you know, the sets that they wind up creating for the show and whatnot. So I definitely did have a fantastic time getting the opportunity to see what these other worlds would look like now that they certainly are no longer under the occupation of the Toji Tendo. But it does wind up getting rather intense in this episode, though, right? Like, for the most part, everybody's certainly having a fantastic time. I truly appreciate Kaito's mindset of just him being happy, right? Like, even though they haven't necessarily been able to find his mom on these worlds, I think he just is extremely joyful at the idea that these people on these worlds are finally safe and free and getting the opportunity to sort of live their life. But quickly short-lived, as we quickly come to find out that the Toji Tendo are also looking for Kaito's mom and Stacy's mom, if you will. So they clearly have sent all their troops around all these other worlds that have already been, you know, free in order to try and find Kaito's mom in here. So things definitely do take a very quick turn, especially for Kaito realizing he's not the only one trying to find his own mother. And if anything, that wind up, I found rather interesting here, the decision by Ijirude of the Toji Tendo to have everybody go out and try and find Kaito's mom. You know, I love the idea that Stacy kind of plays it off a little bit about the idea like, hey, I have no idea what happened to her. You know, why do you sort of need her back so badly, if you will? And I love the fact that Ijirude here, you know, mentions just how important she certainly is, right? And it did get me wondering exactly as to why she's as important to Ijirude as he says that she is. I mean, clearly he probably needs her not only to certainly keep up with maybe upgrades to Stacy, right? It feels very much like Stacy is a cyborg, half machine, half human, maybe used from the DNA or whatever knowledge he's getting from Kaito's mom here. So that's probably one thing. But I also wonder if, like, I'd also wonder if his desperation to get Kaito's mom back, I wonder if it has anything to do with maybe Ijirude's not as smart as we think he is, right? Like, I'm still under the impression very much that the Toji Tendo wind up getting their technology from Kaito's parents, learning from them, right? Utilizing the knowledge that they certainly have. And so if Kaito's mom is no longer available to you, if you don't have the professor in your grasps, I'm kind of curious as to what exactly Ijirude could create. Like, are you still going to be that great inventor, that great scientist, without necessarily stealing information from somebody else to make you look good? You know what I mean? So I do wonder if that plays a part in why Ijirude has such determination to try and go ahead and certainly get her back. So a full search is on in this episode for Kaito's mom, and it does lead to Kaito having to make some really tough decisions, right? The idea of, do I continue to try and search for my mom despite the Toji Tendo literally going across all these other worlds that we just freed? Is there a chance that the Toji Tendo occupy them again, right? How do you balance that? Do you fight the Toji Tendo, try and beat them to your mom, or do you try and beat them to your mom only and leave these other worlds to have to deal with it themselves? And so a brilliant plan, if you ask me, that the Zenkaigers wind up coming up with in here, to have Majin disguise herself using her magic as Kaito's mom, to have the Toji Tendo then assume that the Zenkaigers have captured her, have found her, brought her back to Earth. She's in safekeeping now. So what's the point, right? Like, what's the point of having to invade these other worlds and look around when somebody's already captured her and saved her, if you will, right? So brilliant plan, and it does definitely leads to some really fun action in here. I actually enjoyed the choreography that we wind up getting. Just the idea of having to manipulate Kaito's mom or Majin around, right? Like, while we got Zenkaiser along with Stacy facing off against one another, even Stacy trying to pull Kaito's mom away from one of the other Toji Tendo comrades in here as well. So to kind of see the professor or Majin sort of be like the MacGuffin, or the object that everybody's trying to get during this immense battle, moving her out of the way, trying to protect her, sort of thing. I just thought it was really fun sort of fight choreography that we wind up getting in this episode. And I gotta say too, I really love the setting of the mecha battle that we wind up having here with, Super Tukaiser and Super Zenkaiser together in their the Zenkaiju-Oh formation. I thought it was great to finally see them battle once again. The black Jurin gown, especially back in Icetopia. The idea of being able to have sort of that ice setting, the big mountains and things like that, the snow falling, them fighting in the snow and the ice. I thought it looked beautiful, to be honest with you. I absolutely loved it. But if I did have one complaint, just really short-lived, guys. Like, way too short-lived. Like, last time I checked, the black Jurin gown actually really gave the Zenkaiju-Oh a lot of problems. Like, a lot of problems. To the point to where they either had to retreat, call a timeout, sort of thing. Even Zox and Kaito themselves mentioned how powerful it certainly was. So for them to be able to take it out with such ease, I mean, for the most part, yeah, the black Jurin gown certainly got in a couple of hits, but nothing, fearful or dire of a situation that we find our two characters in. And they literally manhandled it like it was no big deal. Trapped it in ice, cut it, slash, boom, destroyed. So I'm wondering, are we going to see it again? Is that the last of it, sort of thing? Because they really dispatched it with no problems. And a part of me was really hoping that we would have sort of a bigger drag out battle, if anything else. But I did love the idea, like the great special effects of just seeing the black Jurin gown hunt down Zox and his ship while they were sort of like in this weird parallel world hyperspace, if you will. I really dug just what it looked like visually, but I was a little bit disappointed at the very end battle. Love the execution, right? Like, love the setting that it was certainly in, but the fight itself probably could have been a little bit better. So I am curious to see where this is going to lead now, right? Because now we do have a situation where we're right back where we were before episode number 26. The idea that Kaito's mom is still missing at this point, right? Like, she was missing before. We had an idea that she was on the Toji Tendo ship. Now that she's no longer on the ship, we have no idea where we're going. And a part of me was really hoping that next week's episode, we would be following up on this lead, right? That we would see Kaito and them continuing to travel amongst the worlds to go ahead and find her. But when you look at the preview next week, and I don't want to say it looks like a throwaway episode or a filler episode, but it just, the tone, just immediately, and the pacing feels like it's immediately going to change in next week's episode. And I got to tell you, a part of me, if that is the case, again, I'll give it some leeway until I actually watch the episode myself. But man, you give us two really great episodes back to back. 26 better than 27, but 27 I certainly enjoyed because of the fact that we got some solid storytelling, right? Like, we're progressing the story forward. And then it's the idea of next week. Are we not traveling anymore? Do we just give up on the search itself, right? Like, it reminds me of the Sushi World episode where we had Kaito super pumped about trying to find his mom. They're gonna go to all these other worlds. They're gonna find a way to get inside the Toji Tendo base. And then 26 episodes later, it's not even them trying to get into the base. It's the idea of his mom getting off of the base. Like, Kaito hasn't practically lifted a finger to try and find his mom until these last two episodes. So the idea that you know your mom's out there, right, stranded somewhere in the world, you've stopped the Toji Tendo from finding out where your mom truly is, sort of thing. I would think the mentality then would be, let's go back out there. Let's try and find my mom. So I don't know. We'll see what episode 28 truly has in store for us. But from the preview, it feels like we're jumping the shark already and moving on to something else non-related. But who knows? Maybe we'll get little end credit scenes of his mom popping up on the world, sort of thing, someplace else. So I'm not going to get too ahead of myself, but just knowing the direction of how Zenkaiger has handled its storytelling, I am a little bit concerned that we get two great stories and then all of a sudden we're moving on to something else and forget what we just talked about or just tackled 2 episodes ago. So keeping my fingers crossed that I'm wrong, guys. But for me, I really enjoyed the episode based off of getting the opportunity to travel around, see these other worlds, see how they would be represented certainly on screen. I thought the action in here was actually really fun, pitting us against some great enemies, some great choreography as well, and just anytime we get to focus on Kaito's mom, Stacy a little bit, always a winner when it comes to storylines. But guys, listen, at the end of the day, these are just simply my A+ opinions in regards to this episode. If there's anything that I missed though, whether that be character moments or development, storyline details that you guys want to further go ahead and discuss, let's go ahead and continue this conversation over in the comment section after this video airs, guys, because I always want to know your thoughts on these particular episodes as well. But until next week, guys, do me a big favor. As always, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and until next time, keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Full throttle, non-stop. Have a good one, guys. Bye.